So I'm going to go back to this issue of individual humans. We all have genius in us, but unfortunately, over the course of our lifetimes, we tend to disconnect from that, whether it's relationships that have kind of pounded it out of us or whatever it is, we tend to lose the connectedness to who we are inherently and the genius that we possess. You mentioned that Davis's goal is for there to impact 1 billion lives. Well, we want to impact as many Idahoans and beyond as possible.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets Podcast. I'm Kevin, and today we are joined by Blossom Johnston. She is the founder of Idaho Partner for Good. And so, Blossom, welcome to the podcast.
I'm loving being here already, Kevin, just with our pre-podcast discussion.
It was so fun. We're talking about jujitsu, we're talking about laundry, we're talking about breath work. So, my favorite topics. Anyways, one of the things I'm very curious about, I asked you, how long have you been doing coaching for? You're like, all my life, right? And so let's get into the origin story, the lore. What was the moment that you realized you not only wanted to become a coach, but wanted to turn this into a business?
Well, I need to go back to where I was born on Moku'oke'awe, which most people know as the Big Island. There, I have been surrounded by coaches my whole life. Coaches for sports, coaches for my faith, coaches, all the way around me that have poured into me, both good coaches and not so good coaches. And so throughout my life, I've really been tapped as someone who is a kind of a go-to person. And I think it has its early genesis in those great coaches I had when I was a child. People that were like Kurt Kekuna, my young life leader, and Coach Kawachika, my swimming coach. They were just people that completely surrounded me, that poured and invested in the genius that I have.
Yeah. And so that's interesting because it sounds like you've had amazing coaches in your life. And so when you kind of created your own coaching business, who are the people that you notice that you tend to help and what kind of problems do you help them through, I guess? I'm very curious about that.
Okay, well, so let me just start with the level set. The reason why I'm on the earth is to improve the well being of families and children. That's why I live, breathe, and eat, both personally and professionally. And so I will make time when time is needed for especially women, especially young women who need someone that will recognize their worth investing in. So personally, it's around specifically young people, teenagers, young adults. Professionally, it's more along the lines of those that are in nonprofit executive leadership, their boards of directors. So that's where I spend a majority of my professional time is really the art of humaning, which is really how do we be the best versions of ourselves, tapping into our natural genius, but also making sure that our blind spots, we have people around us that can help call them out and help us ameliorate them.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you have two, sounds like you mentioned the professional life and all that, and kind of the personal coaching clients that you have. I'm very curious, let's talk about marketing for a second. How do people typically find you, and what kind of marketing are you kind of doing right now?
So typically and historically, the people find me because of where I show up in the world. So I'm a woman of faith. In my faith circles, I normally get tapped for leadership and for mentoring and coaching. I am intentional about where I live and making sure I'm available to my own neighbors. I'm intentional about the circles I put myself into professionally. So chambers of commerce and young business professionals and the tech industry. So it's really, at least for here and for what we do, it's all relational.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it. And one thing I think is lost actually, especially in the modern day of the digital world, is in real life connection, right? Like everything that you mentioned was very It's in real life, and I feel like that's missing a lot of times too.
Well, so let me just stop because that's a very important point. We have a huge epidemic of loneliness, and it's because we're foregoing human connection for social virtual connection. And that will not serve us well in the long term. We need human to
Yeah.
human contact.
There's this trend on YouTube, which is really, really sad actually. There's this trend a few years ago. It was like, I have no friends,
Mm,
and it was everyone from like young people in high school to 30-year-olds to 50-year-olds. It's like human shared experience across the board. And yeah, I noticed that trend and I was like, man, you are so right. Like the human connection, people are really feeling the isolation and loneliness, probably because of the post-COVID thing too, but just
yeah.
as we become more digitalized as well.
Well, I
So
think
yeah.
that's why people have to get out of their houses. Our houses have been built for no interactions with our neighbors. And
Mhm.
we have to flip that script and start showing up outside our houses for our neighbors.
Which is really interesting because when it comes to a lot of coaches, right? Like I know a lot of coaches who kind of do the in real life type of events and stuff, but I know a lot of them show up digitally as well, like through
Mhm.
social media and stuff like that. Do you do any of that sort of stuff
Oh,
or?
absolutely. Yeah, we have a audience. We have a fairly robust YouTube channel where we put our coaches and our facilitators and our educators up on YouTube primarily because we do want to connect people to people.
Mhm.
So our YouTube channel, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really where we show up mostly in the world so that they know that we're here for them. And, I
Mhm.
can't say it enough, Kevin. We've got to flip the script and start showing up human to human. We can no
Mhm.
longer, and especially those of us who are older, we have what's called a kuleana, which is in the Hawaiian culture. It is a stewardship, it's a responsibility to show up for your community. And we really have to get back to that.
Yeah, it's definitely lost, and especially given right now, I feel like people are more polarized than ever, and like that, it's kind of weird, like being out here in Asia. So I'm on this like trip in Asia, and being back, not my homeland, but being back in Asian culture, like I forgot what it was like to have everyone around you just like care about you. Like there's kids running in the street, but everybody's like your parent and stuff like that, right? Like and all that. Even the dogs and stuff too. There's like dogs like that know how to cross the street. They protect the children and stuff like that too, which is like it's pretty cool, you know? And I feel like that connection piece is definitely really missing these days.
It is, but it doesn't mean that it has to stay missing. And
Yeah.
coaches play a huge part in cultivating the culture of belongingness. And so coaches have a big kuleana, big responsibility to show up for those that they coach for and with. I have two sons. I spent most of their growing up years coaching them. I didn't know how to play soccer, but I coached them at soccer because they wanted to play soccer and the other parents didn't want to coach. I coached them at
Mhm.
baseball. I coached them whenever they needed coaches because I knew that I could show up for not just my sons, but for their friends. And so
Mhm.
that really is something we have to reconnect to is the responsibility we all have to show up.
Let's talk about, okay, people are finding you. They
Yep.
want to work with you. What do your coaching modalities look like? Because since you are so in real life type of person, I wonder, do you do like Zoom stuff? Do you do like
Yeah, yeah,
I like in real life? Mhm.
we do whatever they need, and that we're agnostic, except that we want face-to-face time as well as using email or platforms. Now I'm going to caveat this with while I'm the founder, I have no coaching credentials or certificates, but the team that I run, they all have it. And so
Mhm.
they use all different kinds of things. They use strengths finders, and they use emotional intelligence, and they use conflict resolution, and depending on what the person needs, we've got consultants that can help them. Personally, I love face to face. I love seeing their body language. I love them knowing that I care. My love language is physical touch. So for me, I've got to be in close proximity with people so that they know that I care deeply.
I'm an access service person, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to ask you too. You mentioned we and you mentioned your team. And so
hmm
I would love to hear how you kind of built this team over the last few years.
Sure. So Our mission is to reinvent how people give, share their expertise, and do greater good together. There you go. Our vision is to develop stronger, healthier, better equipped nonprofits so they can do more of what they do best. Our nonprofits in Idaho are on the end of the tip of the spear, keeping people from falling off the cliff. And they have very little support. We are their support. We're the ones that want to wrap ourselves around them and help them with their governance, their leadership, their operations, their infrastructure, their systems. And so this is one piece, a huge piece, is giving them the support as leaders so that they can show up for their end users.
One thing I would love your advice on, and or maybe your thoughts, is like I know a lot of coaches they struggle with like pricing a lot of times too. And of course, you don't need to give any hard numbers or anything like that. But I'd
Mhm.
love to talk pricing strategy with you because yeah, how do you look at like especially if you're working with a lot of nonprofits, how do you
Mhm.
structure your pricing? Do you do like
Yeah.
project based, value based, retainers? Like how does that look like, I guess?
So again, we want to use whatever the best practices are in the industry. And so we do have nonprofit rates and then we have for-profit rates. And we do that on purpose because 40% of what we make as consultants gets put directly back into pro bono work with the nonprofit. So we do have a pricing structure specifically for nonprofits. We can put them on retainers, we can put them on payment plans, whatever it is they need. Again, we are end user focused. Three values are constant learning, continuous learning, entrepreneurial mindsets, and design with our end users. So we use that in all of our work.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. So curious too, since you have a whole team, you're thinking beyond yourself. And I can see the greater mission for your organization or for your business. I guess where do you want this coaching business to take you in the next few years? Do you have any secret dreams, big ambitions no one knows about? Curious there.
So I'm going to go back to this issue of individual humans. We all have genius in us, but unfortunately, over the course of our lifetimes, we tend to disconnect from that, whether it's relationships that have kind of pounded it out of us or whatever it is, we tend to lose the connectedness to who we are inherently and the genius that we possess. You mentioned that Davis's goal is for there to impact 1 billion lives. Well, I mean, we want to impact as many Idahoans and beyond as possible to reconnect to that which is inherent so that they can give it back. It's that
Mm,
virtuous trying to create so that we're not going down, right now people are just blaming and just trying to find somebody else to shift their woes on. We got to
mm,
stop. We have to stop. And we just have to go, you know what? This is partly me. And start connecting to the greater purpose for every human being, which is not just for more money, but it's for the greater good for our communities and our world. So where do we want to go? We want to impact every Idahoan and that wants to share their time, talent, and treasure in order to strengthen the nonprofit sector.
What's your connection to Idaho?
Uh,
Because we were talking about like Hawaii and stuff, and then how
yeah.
does one end up in Idaho?
Okay, so just kind of a sad fact, there
Mhm.
are more Kanaka, which are the indigenous people of Hawaii, that are outside the state now than there are in the state. And so over the
Oh,
last number of decades, the Kanaka have had to leave our homeland in order to have lives, a quality of life. And so went away to college in Spokane, ended up meeting my son's daddy, and we moved to Idaho. And Idaho is a beautiful place. Not that we want everybody to know that because we already have lots and lots of people, but it is a place where people still care about each other and can reconnect
mm,
more quickly to those things that matter.
Thank you for sharing that. I never knew that. Man, that is kind of sad, not gonna lie.
It,
Yeah. Is it because of
yeah,
pricing? Or like
it,
the
it's
increased
it's all it is absolutely the cost of living there. Native Hawaiians, very few can afford a home. Most live multi-generationally. It's not conducive for Native peoples to stay on their own land.
I see.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah.
So I see this mission, right? And so as you are kind of driving toward this mission, what are some big challenges and or bottlenecks or however you want to call it that you're just noticing right now?
Okay, Kevin just got off the phone with someone and their organization imploded. The pressure on people right now is so great that their limbic system has been hijacked and they're in fight or flight constantly. And so we've got so much pressure on families, on leaders, that if we don't relieve some of that pressure, it's going to result in key organizations, key businesses, key government systems imploding. And so the fact is, people are messy. Relationships are messy, but they're really worth time and effort. But right now, people are even more messy. So
Yeah.
it all comes to, not all, most of it comes down to the fact that there are mounting pressures around us worldwide as well as in our own nation.
Are there any challenges that you're noticing within your business, I guess?
Yeah, so people don't know nonprofits. Let's start with the underbelly. There are two things that take a nonprofit out. One is their leaders, and the others are finances. Their leaders they all have to have a board. You cannot have a nonprofit in the United States if you don't have a board of directors.
Mm,
Unfortunately, at least in Idaho, and I would dare say across the United States, very few members of a board actually know what they're supposed to do. So when conflict, when challenges, when loss of revenue come, they don't even know where to start. And so that's a perfect intersection for conflict. And then if they don't have conflict resolution skills, then it just blows.
mm.
So I would say that the lack of training, lack of education for leaders is a huge part. The second part is the support system around some of these leaders is completely missing.
I see.
It might be different in the corporate world, Kevin, but I'm hazarding a guess that with AI on not just currently, but the growth in AI and the number of layoffs there's going to be over the course of the next couple of years, it's going to put people into even more tension and into survival mode. And we know when people are in survival mode, it is fight or flight.
I don't even think it's going to be a few years. I think it's going to be much sooner, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But that is, it's kind of crazy. Like, I used to like watch movies like Terminator and stuff like that. I was like, oh yeah, that's like all fiction. But I feel like we're running closer and closer into these things that sci-fi authors just like thought, and they're actually coming into fruition, which is pretty crazy.
So they're important for things like this, like Purple Circle,
Yeah.
where coaches can come and be taught this is what good human beings look like. This is how we show up for the world. These are tools. We've got tons of tools. That's not the issue. The issue is fundamentally how a person feels about themselves and
Mhm.
whether or not they have the support and the encouragement to step into that place. I keep going back to the genius thing because so few are connected to their genius. And if we did show up there, our world would be much better place.
Let's lighten the mood for a bit. I'd like to play a game with you.
Alrighty.
It's called Good Investment, Bad Investment. And I'm very,
Okay.
very curious about what has been your best business investment for your current business? And what is the worst investment that you made that you wish you kind of got your money back from? Curious about your best and worst.
Hmm. Okay. Yes. It is seriously when the light goes on in that person's eyes and they have now connected their key values to the thing that makes them who they are and they're ready to show up for others. That is like, it makes me so happy when people get there. And then on the reverse side, is when I'm with people who are just going through the motions because somebody has forced them to. Their supervisor or their manager said, you really need some coaching. And they're not there to be coached. They're there to finish the requirement. And they never give themselves to the process. And
Mm.
so those people you can spot pretty quickly. And I don't have time for that.
Blossom, I know that
Mhm.
we have a hard cutoff pretty soon,
Yes.
but how can people find and connect with you?
Okay, so Idaho Partners, the number 4good.org is where you can find us. But we're also, like I said, on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, all of those places where we have a presence. Yeah, those are probably the best places to get a hold of us. What else should I be saying, Kevin, on that? Like, what else should I be giving them? Like just email address or I mean,
No,
people
what
can get a hold of me at info at Idaho Partners, the number 4good.org too. Oh, I can give you a phone number, It's new, so I'm gonna have to look it up real quick.
Are you before we do that, are you sure that
Yeah.
you want to give your phone number, or are
This
you
is the
absolutely sure?
organization.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. This is the organization's number. And like I said, it's new. 208-391-5389.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're watching this podcast and you contact Blossom, let her know that you came from the Purple Circle podcast as well. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Any last thing?
Yes,
Oh,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
Why are you involved in this Purple Circle?
Ooh. For me, I've known Davis for a long, long time. Since my LA days when I was a practicing drug dealer, I was a pharmacist. So I've known him since those days. And I always like working with really good people. And so I've built up skills like entrepreneurial skills, all these like content create. I'm on YouTube and stuff. And I like to use it for organizations that have a huge impact. And yeah, I think it's really, really important for me. And the thing for me, especially doing these podcasts, is to capture the stories of why people do what they do. Sure, we can go into tactical, and sometimes that is really cool, like pricing strategies and all that sort of stuff. And the nitty gritty, that's fun. But I think what moves people a lot of times are like these stories of like, I had it like literally before this podcast, I was interviewing someone and she was like, I started it with no plan and like I thought my life was going to go this way, but my intuition was telling me to do this coaching business instead. And now, like fast forward 10 years later, she has this whole like coaching empire, which is pretty crazy too. Helping also women as well. So it's really, really interesting to see how many people like have similar missions. And like for me too, like as I meet these people, I connect them together and stuff like that as well. And so for
Awesome.
me, I'm big on connection. People call me a super connector, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like my reticular activating system just works where I'm just like, I don't know why you need to meet this person, but I feel like you two should connect. And a lot of times it works really, really well with people. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's a long story short.
That's awesome. So, what do you do better than 99% of the population?
There's a few words that came up to mind, and I don't know how to connect them together. One is like vulnerability. I'm not like some of my most viral videos have been just like sharing my personal stories, saying the things that scare the fuck out of us, scare the fuck out of me, and articulating thoughts that people are all thinking but not saying out loud. So I think there's that. But I think on the service side, it's like holding space for people. You know, I've been able to do things like sales. I've been able to do consulting. I've been able to be there as a pharmacist for people my whole entire life. But what all those things have in common is like, I don't push people. I don't convince people to do anything. I just hold the space. And it's kind of funny. These people just, the people just gain clarity. And what I find is a lot of people are just need the space to just connect, and that's where the best decisions, the best course of actions, the things that we really need come out. And so I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yay for being a genius in that and for using it for the greater good.
Yeah, it's better than being a Sith Lord, I guess, but yes.
That's alter ego.
Yeah, the alter ego.
Uh,
Yes.
awesome. Well,
Cool.
I better
Thank
scoot,
you.
but
Okay.
thank you so much, Kevin. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, my pleasure.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.